being a Northwest guy is you're raised in a batting cage, you're raised in a New York facility, you're taking ground balls off of, you know how to work in limited space.
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, and I know I'm biased because I'm a Northwest guy, but I will take a Northwest guy over somebody from another area any day of the week because I just think they're tougher. I just think they're tougher guys.
I think that's one of the best things about baseball is it still is a way that you can really develop toughness and develop, loyalty and all those kinds of things that we want out of young men in particular.
Welcome to the Pacific Northwest Fungo Banter Podcast, where we highlight all of the great coaches of the Pacific Northwest. Now, here are your hosts, Eric Sorensen, Jason Jarrett, and Kelly Gow.
Hey, we're back with part 2 of our episode with Coach Darren Trainor, the head coach at Lewiston High School. I can't wait to hear all that you guys had to say about part 1 because I know how much we enjoyed recording it. Part 2 does not disappoint. We get into some fun talk. We're trying to get more panel style, right? A little less Q&A, and let's just have some conversations about baseball. And hopefully you guys have noticed that, and I know Coach loved it, and we did too, just having conversations that, in all honesty, the night we recorded this, we could have done this for probably 4 or 5 hours. It was just a fun night of doing this, and I hope you guys are enjoying what we're doing because you're going to love the second part, talking of just, some of the things of being a coach, some of the things you got to deal with, coaching guys up, dealing with all the different ways you got to coach a person and communicate with people. So it's a really good one. I hope you enjoyed it, and please reach out to us and let us know what you liked about it. Post on the socials, all that kind of stuff. I've been seeing the love. Thank you for everybody that's been out there rating and reviewing us. At least I've been seeing it on Apple Podcast. Appreciate all of you. All you loyal listeners that are the reason we're still doing this. Big thank you to Safeguard out of the Tri-Cities. Here come clinic time. You're going to get kind of some fun things if you're going to be in attendance. So they are doing great stuff, making a lot of good swag for us. Thank you to Max BP. Go check them out as they have the best training tools in the market. They also own Frost Gear. They also own Heavy Swing, some pretty cool heavy training bats. And then Top Tier Sports. Go to toptiersports.net. Get signed up for some baseball tournaments this summer all over the Pacific Northwest, not just Western Washington. They're in Eastern Washington, and they're expanding more and more. So appreciate it. And hopefully you guys are getting signed up or already signed up for the Washington State Baseball Coaches Association, our clinic, February 7th and 8th here in Ellensburg, Washington at Central Washington University. Gosh, this is going to be such a fun time. I know last episode I told you everybody's going to be there, but just Friday night, man, we're kicking it off with Kim Cox, DeSales High School retired, building and maintaining a championship program. We're going to have a state championship panel on Friday night with Jason Jarrett, Mike Davidson, Grant Richardson, three of the coaches that won state championships last year in the state of Washington. Coach Eric Fiedler from Enumclaw High School, man, played in the state title game last year. He has one already under his belt, and just a great interview. We had him on, so go back and check out that episode from the past, planning and competitive practice. And then we're going to have our Hall of Fame panel. Last year, that was fun, man. We had a lot of fun questions and conversations there. So, and then don't forget on Friday night, we got the Coaches Social at the Hotel Winrow. It'll be in the ballroom. We're all together. Fungo Banner buys the first drink. We might even be doing a podcast episode from there. I don't know. We'll see how it's going. But excited. And so much more on Saturday as we are going to get to the field house in Nicholson and have some live hands-on demonstrations from Nick Allen from Ridgefield, Darren Trainor from Lewiston. Like I talked about, man, if you want to hear more or see more from these episodes, Coach is going to break it down hands-on in person. Elliot Kirby, head coach at Eastlake, Casey Adcox, retired coach from Sumner, Mike Davidson from Overlake, and Mike Olson from Bonnie Lake. So that's enough for me. Let's go ahead and get to Coach because I know this episode does not disappoint. Super excited. I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas break, and we're still on that some of you, I don't know if people are going back to school yet. I know my kids are still home, but hopefully you guys all had a great Christmas and some exciting news from the Fungo Banner family after this thing's been released. So good stuff. Let's go ahead and bring on Coach Trainor.
Well, let's dive into practice planning a little bit. We'll talk, sure, developing guys and making them the best players for your program compared to the best versions of themselves. How do kind of practices vary for you guys on a weekly basis? Is it, pretty similar day to day? Is there a general model? Is it kind of go to different sides? Just kind of walk us through kind of what a day in the life is at a practice at Lewiston High School for you guys.
I would say things are pretty routine. I would say things are pretty routine. Like I said, our kids get out of school early here. And a lot of our juniors and maybe not juniors, but our seniors have early release, so they're able to get out of school early. And so we get out of school at 2:25, and we talked about it earlier. We get our early out started at 2:45, where we get a bunch of reps. Some guys are with the infielders, some guys are with the pitchers, and our pitching coach Brooks Uhas. Some guys are offensive focused in the cages with Josh Moore. And then we have our catchers and outfielders, and so we try to, because we have a bunch of different guys that play a bunch of different positions: pitch, infield, catch, outfield, offensive focus, things that they need to work on. So we spread them out and mix them up at early outs throughout the week. And then we'll start at 3:15. And it's pretty routine, for us. We'll start with catch play with our pitchers and catchers together. And that catch play will probably go for about 25 minutes. I want them to play good catch. Even my shortstop, who's our best position player, I want him with our pitching coach for 25 minutes. I don't care if we take some time out of our practice plan. I want him working with his pitching coach, getting good long toss in, getting bands in, getting activation, and then working. We're a big flat ground program. We really like flat grounds and just feeling pitches, just feeling it out. 15 pitches if they're not throwing a bullpen at the end of their catch play. And that's why we have those catchers over there. Those catchers are catching those flat grounds, interacting with those pitchers, and going from there. From there, we'll probably go into some individual defense, infielders, outfielders, catchers, pitchers with some PFPs, some team defense. For us, we really like to work on cuts and relays, and because we play in such a big yard, and so we'll go into cuts and relays or some sort of team defense, competitive. Try to keep things as competitive as possible. We have our JVs practicing with us, so we'll split up the group. JVs, varsities together. We'll split them up like 15 and 15. Black versus purple, two different shirts, two different dugouts, and they're trying to compete at each drill. They're trying to beat a purple or beat a black on each drill, and so trying to keep it competitive. And then we typically end practice with some sort of team competition, whether it's a coach pitch inter squad, whether it's a slider machine inter squad, whether it's an inter squad. For us, in just my short experience, like the best ways for us to get better at playing the game has been playing the game, and it's a true assessment of where you're at, and you see mistakes at full speed, and one of our favorites is honestly just a coach pitch inter squad with a 1-1 count, so the hitters are putting the balls in play, especially early on when we're trying to hammer in our absolutes and what we're absolutely going to do here, and that's we're going to sprint on and off the field. Like we're getting on and off that field within 19 seconds regardless, or we're going to have some sort of punishment, and they know that standard. And in the beginning we talk about it, and it's the little things, but we see it throughout the year. Like when we're getting on that field as the other team is getting off and we beat them on the field, our kids start to talk our language and be like, we're beating them on the field. Like we got this game. We want to be here more than the other team. So that coach pitch inter squad piece with, I don't even care what position the kids go to. I want them to figure it out on their own. I want to develop a leader on the purple squad and on the black squad. I want them to take the reins and make sure their gloves are getting picked up, and JV guys are getting to know varsity guys. It's everyone pulling together to play to the standard. So sprinting on and off the field, and getting after it, 1-1 count. Just the absolutes of sprinting everywhere we go, and competing together, and we track it and chart it, and compete in some way, and there's winners and losers on that day, but still make it fun. And but want to make it competitive, want them to love competing and love competing together regardless of who's on their team. I don't want to hear any excuses. We don't really tolerate talk about the umpire. Like, we've been pretty consistent with that. Like, we'll take a kid out of the game if he's talking about the umpire or has an excuse. We feel like, it's out of our control. So why do we even worry about it? We're just going to try to play our game. Like that's it. We talk about attitude, effort, next play mentality. And if we can control those things, then we'll be all right. So that's what a practice looks like. And, I think we'll mix it up here and there. And as we get into the winter season, we're in the cages. It's it's voluntary, so it's player led, and so I have an opportunity to see some kids as leaders and get them throwing bullpens so their arms are in shape before we get on the field. So, but that's what we do, and so it's worked so far for us.
There's a couple ways I want to go with this, but there's nothing better than when you're going in a game and you're grinding. And how many times I've stopped our guys when they're coming in the dugout, I'm like, stop, look where the other team's at, throttle down.
Yeah.
Now. They're not even out of the dugout, guys. This is a part of everything that we stand for. I love that. I wish more coaches, a lot of the right the right programs do it, right? Like, it's a baseball
Absolutely.
thing, but. And then you're talking about the competition piece of that, and how many times I've had guys whether we're doing a 3-team scrimmage or whatever we're doing in practice, right? Well, I don't play here. I'm like, oh, who cares? Do it anyways, because that kid might break his leg tomorrow. And we
Figure
have
it out.
12 guys. Yeah, make it happen. One way it's a competition. You're here to compete your butts off, whether you're filling up the water bottles or you're playing third base when you're normally a center fielder.
Absolutely, and it helps them as athletes too. Like, you're not going to play one position in this game. You're going to have to move around. And when you think about it, it's great stories too. Like, what a honorable thing that a kid did. He went to an outfield position that he doesn't play for the group, because the group might have a punishment if you don't get on the field in 19 seconds. And hey, he just goes out there and he figures it out regardless of if he plays there or not. And that's kind of the mentality that we're trying to preach to these kids is, just compete, just get after it, next play mentality. It doesn't matter. It's about us and what we do, and not about anything we can't control. So
it's even better when you got that guy out there who makes that diving catch
to
win the game.
Absolutely.
We've had that, so
absolutely.
Talk us through, and Jason, when he's done answering, you can answer too, because we're in the same conference, so Jason can tell me all the secrets.
Yeah.
It's great. I need to hear them all. But talk to us throughout how you structure your practice. And I've always kind of talked, how you do it throughout the season, right? At one point, someone told me, you got to break it down into certain sections of what you need to accomplish here. But, day one practice towards the end of your season, even rolling into the playoffs. I mean, are you changing a lot? Is it shorter practices? Is it longer? Is it different tempo? What are some of the things that, as the season progresses along, that you might be doing with your squad?
Yeah, that's a good one. I've gone back and forth. I think you got to know your bodies. I think you got to know from a health standpoint where your kids are at. For us, we play double headers, and we're on the road a ton. We're up in Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls and Lake City. So, it's been a long travel throughout the spring. So you got to know your bodies. And then I feel like you do have to keep a routine, though. You do have to keep them competing. You can't just roll out BP and hangout sessions and shorts if you've been going hard and really instilling those traits and values in your program throughout the year. So that's something that, we go back and forth with once we get to the end of the year. And it's a balance of knowing where your athletes are at from a health standpoint, and then still, because they got to compete, and they can't be shocked or caught off guard when you're in that playoff situation. I think you need to be hardened. You need to trust your training. You have to be ready for it. So that I think that's a good question. Something we we look at every single year. And I think it needs to be a mixture of both, probably. I think you need to know your athletes and then also still compete and get after it.
Yeah, I think
You're talking competition and practice. Go ahead, Jason.
I was just gonna say, just to add to that, I think the key is the repetition, right? It's the routine, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes we change almost too much, then it gets us out of that normality, I guess.
Yeah.
We're used to routine aspect, and then that's, I think, you could possibly run into some major problems down the road when you get deeper into the playoffs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, talk routine or not routine. We got routine. Competition at at practice. I think a big deal. You talk about ending on practice on something competitive. Are you big on keeping score? Is there we know you're an LC State guy and something on the line, whether painful, not as enjoyable. Where you're at with scoring and I don't want to say punishment, but maybe some mental conditioning on the back end of some of those competitions.
I think we've been trying something that we've been trying to do for the last couple. We're trying to figure out how to put the ball in play better with 2 strikes. And you go back and forth with it. You think about maybe taking too many pitches early in the count to get to that point. So a lot of times we're trying to compete and have competitive at bats. So we might put it at a 1-2 count, and the old saying of like getting on top of the play, shortening it up. I think in high school baseball is important. Like they should learn how to have a 2-strike approach and learn how to put the thing in play hard with 2 strikes. And so, yeah, we'll put competitions together, whether it's a 2-strike game or we'll keep track of runs, or we'll keep track of dirt ball reads is something that we're thinking about constantly. That's in high school baseball you can really take advantage of. We track everything. We try to track points, like points for a quality at bat, points for a hard barrel, points for getting to a 2-strike count and putting the ball in play hard. We try to mix it up, and try to make the teams even. And, I think putting a little something on the line, field work, whatever, a little bit of conditioning, something to make them want to compete and want to, feel good at the end of the day that you won. You beat the other guys over there in the other dugout, and then we all come together and have a talk and go home. But, I think that's something that our guys really love to get after it and love to have that time where maybe the coaching piece is a little bit out of it, and they just get to go out there and compete and get after it with their team that they're on that day and go from there. But we'll track everything, successful sacrifice bunts. When I took over, I said one of our absolutes is we're not going to move out of the way of the pitch. I'm from Lewiston, Clark State. We don't move out of the way of the pitch here. Well, I've learned that it's a little bit tougher than that. So you guys will probably laugh at me, but I went to a business here in town that makes milkshakes, and I was like, hey, listen, like I'm trying everything here. I'm trying to get our guys to not get out of the way of the pitch and wear a pitch and try to make it cool and whatever. So do you think you can give us a couple certificates for milkshakes? She loved it. She thought it was awesome. Her kid's growing up, going to be in the program in a couple years. So we have a hard hat that we take with us, and we put stickers on the hard hat if you get hit by a pitch. And so if you get hit by a pitch, you get a milkshake. And it's kind of a joke with the guys, like they're kind of joking about it, like, hey, let's get a milkshake today, let's get after it. But hey, it has improved our hit by pitch totals, and I think our team goal is 60. I don't know what we got, but short of that. But things like that where competing together. We're not going to get out of the way of the pitch. Like, we're just going to wear that thing, and that's just an extra base. And for us, we hit 214 as a team last year, so we'll take any base that we can get. Any tough at bat, anything that we can get on base for, we'll wear it. So, yeah, I don't know. This is some of the stuff that we try to track and compete with.
Yeah, I think in college, I think it was my senior year, the nameless school. We won't dive into that, but I think we had a hit by pitch thing on the line. I think the winner got a dinner or something like that. Ended up tying, I believe, with the second place person for the most hit by pitches on a team. We're waiting for that meal to come through. It's been how many years? 20, not 20, 15 years or so now. So hopefully that happens. Let's checks in the mail on that end. Did you get any extra milkshake certificates? Just know that I earned one a long time ago.
Send it
But
over.
let's dive into the 2K stuff. You mentioned like you struggle and I want to chat on that. Like, it'd be great for us all to kind of get into that realm. Like, what's kind of no slight, but like if your team's hitting 214 as a group, like, you don't have the most offensive team, right? You got to manufacture runs, do things differently. Like, you got to be a little bit more creative, right? And I've had teams like that, and it is what it is. Like, so wearing pitches, free bases, OBP, 2K, like all that becomes so much more important. But, have you kind of tried to set that as more of a mentality? Is it more of a physical thing? Where do you feel like the team as a whole have lacked in that realm?
I would say, I think, like, our baseball, group, it's not really emphasized in our youth, programs. I would say, I think it's, striking out's okay, and I get that. Like, pitchers are throwing harder now. Pitchers are much better, and kids are, it's not very fun to get hit by a pitch, and if you're trying to be recruited or whatever, you're trying to, those coaches want to see you hit, but that doesn't necessarily translate to winning baseball. I think it's a mentality thing. Like, we'll take those soft foam balls and we'll work on rolling in on a pitch and stuff like that. But I think it's just being a good teammate and doing anything you can for the good of the group, and knowing and understanding what kind of team you are, and buying into that mentality of your team, and being that gritty team that will do anything to win, and not gonna move our feet, not gonna get out of the way of a pitch, regardless if it's the 9-hitter or the 4-hitter. And then striking out. I think it's probably a mentality of it's been okay for a long time. But if you look at a high school baseball game, if you strike out, 7 times a game, there's 21 outs. So, 7 outs, you're just going back to the dugout and you're not challenging the defense. I've seen in high school baseball, they will, they'll kick the ball. So being able to, shrink that 7 to 4 and, move from there, and you're able to, make some positive plays where you can challenge the defense, and they might make a mistake and you get on base, and now we can score some more runs. So I think it's probably a mentality. Yeah. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Well,
I think.
Wait.
No, you mentioned like not getting to 2 strikes, right? And I think, if you're not offensive early in the counts, there probably has to be a physical change when you get to that 2-strike count, like whether that's wide, on dish, choke, and then just kind of combat battle mode, right? Because if you're not slugging early in the count, then you're basically the same hitter later in the count, right? So, rather than looking for something that you're not capable of doing when the count's at a disadvantage, like, we have to make a physical adjustment in order to do it. And I was always that guy. I was a punch hitter, and Country can get into that if he wants, but like I know 2K wise for me, like I was always on the dish wide and like got the ball in play quite a bit, right? And a lot of that is because I fouled off pitches that I had no chance at handling earlier in the count and get later, and now we're gonna punch a little bit, and so there's different ways to manipulate that. I think challenging guys as best you can, and in scrimmage settings, whether it's a coach on the mound ripping sliders and fastballs at 40 feet, or a tough machine that's tough to handle. I think trying to set that mentality. And I've heard a lot of high school coaches too. I mean, I dabbled there a little bit in the summer, but a lot of coaches will have an off-speed plan in 2K, right? That we're going to sit sliders, we're going to sit breaking balls because of the predictability of the opponent's pitchers. We're at college, like, we're more on-time fastball away, so you can handle the hanger, and like you're going to give up fastball in. But like, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, but I think I've heard a lot of people been like, we're sitting breaking ball in 2K counts as a high school player, because we know that we're going to probably get it based on what teams are trying to do. So I'll open it up, see what other guys think on here.
Yeah, I think the frustrating part for me, what I see on the high school level, is almost, we're teaching these young men to play the game. The game is played out. It's like no different than like the classroom, right? You instruct the information, you're giving them lectures, you give them the notes, then the test lays out how much information they really obtained, right? The games it tells us how much the player has obtained. For us, we'll do, a lot of, junior hacks, double machine, unpredictability, know the situation. We enter squad quite a bit, and every inning I'll play it out. Okay, we're starting out normal, 0-0, nobody on. Okay, inning 2, we got a guy at second, everybody's coming up with a 1-1. Okay, I'm not, nor neither of any of our coaches are giving signs, telling each other to steal, whatever. All they're doing is telling them to go or stop. That's all we're doing. And so you as a hitter have to determine, the situation, what is to do in order for your team to win. So stepping into that box, in game like, of course, most coaches are going to give a sign to the player and tell them, we're going to steal here, we're going to hit and run, we're going to bunt, we're going to do this kind of stuff. But even to that, we play in, if you're going to bunt, what are you going to do? You're going to go drag, you're going to go push, you're going to go squeeze, safety, all the scenarios. And so we want them to think, like coaches, right? I got a guy at second base, got no outs. Okay, I want anything, away, maybe I'm going to pull that third baseman off the line, away from the bag, those kind of situations to get that guy now in scoring position. I always tell our guys too, automatics are second and third. When we leave guys on second and third, we're leaving automatic runs. That's the thing I always instilled. So I think sometimes high school coaches can almost, kind of coddle kids in a way of their coaching instead of just let them. And I think part of that's the dialogue. I think collegiately, you're getting the dialogue, but you're getting the other, you got to figure it out, right? If you're up there just allowing punch outs to take place, you're not going to find time, so you got to learn how to fight them off. What are you going to be looking for? Don't be, it's like Kelly saying, I don't tell our guys, hey, we're going to be sitting back and we're laying off breaking pitches, we're hunting fastballs. We're looking for the best pitch in the box and then go with each guy. I tell him, you all have individual boxes. You have, red and blues. Red's hot, blues is cold. And you're not, Johnny's not going to hit the same way as Timmy, so it's like, you guys got to figure out your reds and blues. And then I can help instruct that, video footage. We can, do some, things at practice to see that. And so I think you got to kind of just stretch those players, especially if they want to play at the next level. Yeah. You're not going to get coddled. So
we had 100%. We had a moment this last season, and actually Jason he saw it happen, the beginning part of it, because we were playing on his field. And actually one of our other loyal listeners was the coach in the other dugout. But we had a moment where, oh my God, we popped up so much. And we were you could just see the approach of the kids. and we are young at this point in time, and we're dip drive, and they're trying to hit the ball in the air. And I said, you know what, guys, we figured it out in game 2, and we ended up winning game 2, and then the next day at practice, I set them in the dugout as soon as we started. I was like, we need to have an honest conversation, because how many of you guys live in the weight room? And like 2 guys raised their hands. I said, okay, I know he does, and I know he can run a ball out. Okay, no offense to the other guy, but that's not your game. And no one else lives in the weight room and puts that time and effort in. So why are we trying to sit back like we're 6'5" donkeys at the D1 level just trying to jack the ball when we've proven that, when we're in Kittitas and the wind's blowing 50 miles an hour, that's okay to hit the ball in the air because no one can catch that. Jason can attest to that. But
That's true.
Why, and especially the fields that we play on and what we're doing, we need to have a better approach and put the ball in play. And I'm not necessarily saying hit the ball on the ground, but I said we need to be sitting, second to short, about this high off the air. We're trying to hit the ball on the line. And we need to have an honest conversation of who we are as a player. And when it gets down to 2 strike, you need to be able to compete your butt off. We're widening out. We're getting on the plate. And you could see there was some hesitation with some of the people. And if some of my players are listening, they're going to understand the exact day that this happened. But I said, do you like striking out 3 times in a row in your plates? And you saw some kids get a little wide-eyed. I said, do you want to be successful and win? Yeah. Okay, we've been preaching this plan for the whole season. When are we going to buy into it? And it was actually kind of cool to see how the kids all right, kind of one of those moments where they left like, yeah, you're right, coach. Like, it's time to get at it. And then we got the junior hack out and we destroyed them for a little while that day to see who was actually going to make the adjustment. But it's oh gosh, so much of getting kids to. At least for this, because it's so different every single year, but getting our kids into understanding the concept of why we're doing this. And I said, if you guys live in the weight room and you come back and you grow 6 inches and you just are an absolute beast, you might have a different approach than Timmy over here. But guys, we can't sit here and do the same thing over and over and over because I'm pretty sure that's insanity.
Absolutely. Yeah. The game changes when you hit the weight room. It just becomes a lot easier. And, you have kids that really get after it in the weight room, then, you're okay with a little bit of swing and miss, those are some great points, man. Like, I feel like hitting's the toughest thing to teach in the game by far. Like, it's so hard. The failure piece, the confidence piece with dealing with, 15 to 18-year-olds, it's tough to do. And also you have the balance of like development versus, well, we need to do this to win. So that's something you're always thinking about in practice planning. And so I think a mixture of both of like, they have their time where they're working, whether it's with me or with our hitting coach and breaking down swing development and breaking down bat path and where they're going. And then also a balance of, well, we have to do this in the game to win, and we want to win as a team. So got to compete and put the ball in play with 2 strikes. And I know it's not the coolest thing in the world or the most fun thing to work on, but we got to do it to win, man. We can't win by striking out 13 times a game. So,
well, we had a moment
tough
in that game with our guy that he, at one point in that game 2 of that doubleheader, he dragged bunt. He goes, Coach, I'm just not seeing it. And he goes, I'm going to bunt right here. I said, okay, go ahead. And he laid down a bunt for a base hit, and then our 4-hitter comes up and hits a ball off the right center gap, off the wall. We score a run. And that was actually the easiest teaching moment through that speech was like, that's the guy, right? Did you guys remember what he did? And they're like, all right. But you're right.
Valuable tool.
Yeah.
Valuable tool, man.
The guy comes back up the next time and goes back to how he does it, and he hits a P rocket off the wall again. I'm like,
yeah.
Right? It's all, But that's 100%.
Good baseball.
Keeping guys in the game of baseball, but yet the development piece,
I think it's so important to know like who you are as a hitter, like, and you guys mentioned that too, like, just because of, and I think you guys see a big transformation, like that 15 to 18-year-old is such a big growth period, and then even 18 to 20, you get some guys that kind of move around there a little bit, but like really knowing who you are, what your strengths are. I mean, Jason talked about strike zone management, that kind of stuff, but like you really have to have a good idea of who you are as a hitter. And I think every hitter has an A swing and a B swing, right? And I think in cheat counts, like you've earned the right to use an A swing, right? And when you get behind or you're not having a good day or it's a tough matchup, left on left, a slider guy, you're not a good slider hitter, like you have to be able to default to a B swing when necessary. And for me, like A swing is slow and early, trying to catch the ball out front. B swing is tight and late, right? A little bit less takeaway. We're a little bit closer to our shoulder, like tighter in our turn, like really trying to control path and try to be closer to the ball. And that can be anyone too. Like that's not necessarily a swing change necessarily. It's just how much of your swing you're trying to take in those situations. So I think it's baseball IQ, right? Like, and I think guys knowing when they're on, when they're off, like we talk hitting, but I mean, that could go for pitching. It can go for anything really, but like just really that self-awareness and situational hitting and stuff. And that has to be taught. Like your older guys are going to get it just by being around the game, but those young puppies, like they know nothing. And it's the same in high school as a freshman as it is in college as a freshman. It just kind of starts all over again. So yeah, I think it's the self-awareness and being able to teach different things and get buy-in from them too. Like give them what they want. Like if you want to hit doubles, like everyone can be a doubles hitter, right? There's a lot of different ways to hit a double. And doubles missed in the air with guys in the weight room are homers, right? Like with younger guys that are less physical, those are outs, right? And ground balls are generally going to be outs if they're weakly hit. But and again, as a whole, it's just a good self-awareness to have at all times.
Yeah, and I think too it's important to have the importance of having a staff that have all the same dialogue, right? I mean, the same way of instructing, teaching the game right. Because I think for players to hear it from a different voice is good for them. You know, it's not always from one voice. You know, because every coach is going to give different set of he has a different set of eyes, a different way of interpreting to that kid, and maybe one way you're preaching it, Darren, to maybe your assistant says and just changes it a little bit, and he goes, I get it now, and I think that's extremely important. That, some coaches want to be only one voice, and
Yeah.
I think you just run into dangers like that, and there's no point of having a staff if you're not gonna give them a voice. It's just like captains. You don't just have one captain on the team. You have maybe 2 or 3 captains, because they're all going to add to the group and say, hey, one guy's going to say one thing and another guy says, and then it's just fireworks in the dugout, and you go out and score 3 runs and you win the game. So it's extremely important for those guys to hear those different voices. So
100%.
I guess I'm just thinking story time, but I remember sitting in the dugout last year and my assistant, and he was like, he needs to do this. I said, I know. I've been telling him. You go tell him, because you're going to say it different than I am. Shit at work. And the kid changed, and he figured it out. And he's like, Coach, that makes so much sense now. I was like, thank you. It's how you communicate with 20 different personalities of people. But man,
crazy how that works.
We could go.
Yeah.
I feel like we could go for another hour easily talking about everything. I got a listener question, and we're throwing this on you. You don't know about this, but Mr. Scott Parrish,
All right.
the kingpin of the Palouse, we'll call him.
Blue Summer Series.
That's right. Scotty,
Himself.
He'll be at the coach's clinic. He'll be there in full. We'll keep him out of prison that night. I guarantee it. But his text for you was the one thing that he's always liked and been impressed with the LC Valley teams is the noticeable positive imprint that the LC Warrior teams have on local baseball, youth programs, Legion partnerships, and connecting the community baseball. As a former player of the Warrior Way, is the Warrior Way something you looked to install within your high school program?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think when I played at LC, that was something that I noticed immediately. Like, the players would run the camps, with our coaches, and we're active in the community. We would go to Little League opening days and whatnot. And had a lot of our returning kids, coming back to camps and everything. So we knew a lot of kids. Actually, one of my good friends in college, our good buddy, he has a couple pictures with our shortstop now, who's a junior, and he's a little kid back then, and still keeps in touch with our shortstop now. So I think that starts with the LC coaches and having an understanding of playing for the Valley, and baseball means a lot here. It's pretty cool. Like, we don't necessarily have a super close professional sports team, but everyone talks about the NAIA World Series, and hoping for the Warriors to play well, and that's your hope every year, is that they win a World Series. So it's definitely different. That's something that I noticed right away when I came here. It was like, wow, this is a little bit different, because in California there's colleges everywhere, and so it really is that small town feel. The Warrior way, yeah, I try to instill that in our guys. We hustle everywhere. We do the right thing. Trying to help them become better people. That's the goal at the end of the day. Use baseball as a tool to equip them with some life traits that'll help them out. Yeah, it is, awesome. Like, we'll be in the cages, in the winter, and voluntary workouts and whatever, and you'll see some LC guys just hop in and hit with our guys, and are just interacting with our players, and not big league at all. Like, happy to be there, and not trying to change the machine or anything. They're just hopping out, working with our guys, and giving them feedback. And so that's something that I'm super grateful about. And that's probably one of the coolest things about the job, is having that access to those guys over there. And, I asked for their feedback quite a bit. And in the summer, we practice and play at Harrisfield. So those coaches are there all the time, and telling me if I'm doing it wrong, but also giving great feedback. They're some of my biggest mentors that I value the most. So yeah, super thankful. And they're great with our kids too. Like, they're awesome coaches with our kids, and they love kids, and just trying to help them get better and grow the game here in Lewiston and in the Valley. And so it's awesome, man. It's really awesome.
I haven't been at Fresno State for a year, and the whole you being a Turlock guy, and the whole concept of Valley Pride, and hearing you say that now, like, is that something that you kind of model off your feelings for, what that was? And I can't remember the coach that was there that started that there at Fresno, but is that
Bob Bennett
kind of a yeah, there you go. Is that kind of the model for you and what you're trying to do? Having said that, like, or has that been a consistent thing before you got to Lewiston?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, the coach that was here before me did a great job, and like, the culture was awesome when I stepped in. But yeah, definitely, I've thought about the green V. I've thought about incorporating that in some way. Fresno State is awesome. I don't know if you were around when Tommy Mendonça went there, if that name rings a bell. He's from
Got to meet him
Turlock.
a little bit. Yeah, he came back when he was in pro ball. Yeah.
Yeah. So his uncle is one of my dad's best friends. So think about Valley Tough and all that mantras and whatever. Yeah, definitely. Like, it's just representing where you're from and playing for something that's bigger than you. We joke about it all the time. Not joke, but we say it all the time. It's bigger than us. Insinuating that we're carrying on the legacy, I guess you could say, of a Bengal baseball player, and think of it like that, at least. So definitely, I've thought about that, and it's something that we talk about, the importance of history, and where we're at, and all the great players and coaches that have come before us, and we're just a small stepping stone, but we're just trying to leave this program better than we found it, and leave this place better than we found it.
Yeah, I think when you go to those little league fields, with your guys, and then wearing the purple and gold. I mean, there's something to. It's kind of cool, really, as a coach, right? I mean, you're
Absolutely.
starting to tread that way and developing, or even that incoming freshman, that steps on that field for the first time, and he's got those little bit of that rattle going on in his knees, and but he just because he knows the expectation, to do it right, and
Yeah.
he wants to compete for you and go out and ultimately win, and you're going to get anybody and everybody coming to you when you're definitely putting up W's, and no matter how large your school is. I mean, it's not even on the small school side. So I mean, you think about,
Yeah.
I think a guy, Kim Cox, he's going to be at our clinic here in February, right, Eric?
Mhm.
Correct.
And so, you think about all the state championships he's won and what he did at DeSales there in Walla Walla. And I mean, his legacy still lives on today. They just won their 20th state championship here this last spring. And of course, it's just anything with that green and gold, you just know, you think Kim Cox and what he's established and what they built. And of course, when you go play them and they got all those state championships up and the banners in the outfield, it's a little intimidating, as a competitor and an opponent, so that's just even on the collegiate side. It's just,
Yeah.
you see all the kids want to go to the big schools, not just for the swag and the glory and the facilities, but man, it's winning those national championships and competing, and ultimately, like you said earlier, going to LC State. I mean, you're loaded with 5,000 fans, and you're playing a college World Series, and you hit that big hit, and that whole, all those stands in the outfield and all the way down to first and third baseline, they're roaring for you. And when you walk into the park, you got all the MLB guys that have moved on from the program. I mean, that's intimidating. I mean, it really is. It actually gives me chills just thinking about it, because, being those big moments, and, we talked about it our last episode, with Brian, but being in some of those super regional games, and Kelly had the opportunity to do that. I mean, you live for that. I mean, it's just packing those stadiums out and having that roar and being a part of that championship way is extremely exciting.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
I will say,
Yeah.
showing up for batting practice and all the loyal guys are already in the stands in their lawn chairs watching you from the front row. It's a little bit intimidating.
Guys are passionate. That's for sure.
That's right.
Very passionate.
Well, Coach, we didn't even touch like half the thing, and we got an hour and 30 minutes of awesome audio for this Christmas presents for everybody. But we could keep going for another hour or two. But man, thank you so much for taking time to come on with us. And I know that any of our listeners that are going to be attending Ellensburg in February, even more reason to go sign up right now for the clinic, because this is more of the stuff that we're going to have presenting there. And thank you so much for coming on with us and saying yes.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. This is an awesome experience, just to be around you guys and hear you guys speak about your expertise and all your experiences. It's a fun community, man. So yeah, just really appreciative of all of what you guys have done, bringing great coaches on, and it helps us as listeners, get better at coaching and try to figure it out. So I can't thank you guys enough. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We'll be right back to wrap up this episode.
Now entering from the bullpen,
and that wraps up our episodes with Darren Trainor, head coach at Lewiston High School. And please reach out on our socials. Let us know what you thought. We had so much fun recording it. I know he had a blast being on with us, and look forward to catching up with him in Ellensburg at the Coaches Clinic here in February. So get signed up for that. Thank you to Safeguard. Thank you to Max BP. Thank you to Top Tier Sports, as they are helping this thing keep on the road, keep it going. So, and most importantly, thank you to you listeners out there. If you get a chance, please go rate and review. You can follow us all on YouTube. Follow us on social media, TikTok, Facebook, the Twitter. I guess it's X. Just those kind of things is what we appreciate coming from you guys. Helps us keep delivering all this stuff for free, and we just enjoy our family in the Pacific Northwest and the fraternity that's grown with it, one episode at a time. So again, I hope everybody had a great Merry Christmas. And thank you again to Coach Trainor. Look forward to meeting him here in person, and we will be back next week with another episode of your Pacific Northwest Fungo Banter. Take care, everybody.